So are you ready to PR yourself? We'll remove the mystery from all things PR, and we'll discuss everything from our top strategies to tips and tricks and everything that you can utilize to further enhance your brand or your message. I've been in media, I'm a journalist, and I'm also a publicist. I am Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, and your host for PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. Let's go. And welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I am your host, Leah Frazier, CEO of Think3 Media, based out of Dallas, Texas. And I'm so glad that you are here joining me for yet another episode on PR. All things PR. But before we hop into it, I know it's been a while since we've all congregated and we've met over these internet waves to talk about PR here on the podcast. It's just been incredibly busy, but I have missed it so much. And I'm so excited about today's episode where I'll just be chit-chatting maybe about a PR piss off of the week. I know some of my older listeners who have been around for a while, that has always been a favorite segment of yours. So I'm definitely bringing that back today with some things that I've just been sensing that I just want to talk about just for a little bit. But it has been really busy here in Dallas. One of my clients just opened a fine dining restaurant in our Trinity Groves district called Winsome Prime. I just want to shout them out. Steakhouse, seafood with a very Southern and Cajun flair, and it is delicious. I was just there last night with some friends, and it was their first time there. So charbroiled oysters with like garlic and Parmesan cheesiness, and the mac and cheese was incredible. And I tried the Hawaiian ribeye for the first time, and I never thought that I would actually enjoy steak that was like sweet and savory at the same time. And it was actually super duper delicious. And then my favorite, of course, are the cocktails that all have some fun twist or some fun name to it. So of course, if you know me long enough, I am definitely a Beyonce fan. So of course, my favorite cocktail on the menu is the Beehive that has this cute little honeycomb with a lemon at the bottom of it that kind of garnishes the cocktail. And inside the cocktail itself is Beyonce's Sir Davis. I think that's a whiskey, if I'm not mistaken, but I don't care because it's all things Beyonce and I'm going to drink it. So I tried to go in there with an open mind yesterday, and I'm like, I'm not going to get the same cocktails I always get. And I did. I couldn't help myself because they're just really good. So if you're in the Dallas area and even in Houston where the restaurant originated, definitely want to go check out Winsome Prime. Congratulations to the team out there for a successful Dallas opening. And of course, Think3 Media was so proud to be a part of that project, and hopefully with some ongoing sustaining buzz, because it truly is a really great restaurant and concept. But so many things going on in the news. I've had people reach out wanted me to talk about PR on Kanye West. And I'm like, cause why? I'm like, there's nothing to debate. I think it's 100%. We're all thinking, what the hell? So I am not covering Kanye West. And then I had some folks just recently this past week say, you need to get all the publicists on to talk about this Shannon Sharpe situation. And I'm like, yeah, no, like maybe, but I mean, we've seen this type of thing play out time and time again. If you're not aware, Shannon Sharpe is not only a commentator on ESPN, but he also has a very popular podcast and vodcast, I would say, as well, called Club Shay Shay. And it really blew up after he had Cat Williams on a couple of years ago. And I mean, he makes an incredible amount of money just off the podcast alone with all of his views. But anyways, he had been in the news months ago when his Instagram live accidentally went live while he was having relations. I'll just leave it at that. And so we get past that, everything goes back to normal. And here we are in present day. And now he's being sued by Tony Busby and a young lady for, I believe, to the tune of $50 million for sexual assault, or I have to go back. Yeah, sexual assault and some other allegations. So here's the thing. I'm not going to do a PR yourself episode on that. I think everybody can come to their own opinion on how this may affect his career. And how, and I think it ties in really, really well, with today, just like as the totality of your brand, how even the things that you do internally, how they can affect your brand externally, right? The people you have around you, the decisions, the choices you make. And I know that seems fairly cliche. However, sometimes we really don't think about the little things, having an effect on our public relations or our publicity as a whole. And sometimes what's done in the dark will come to light. Hopefully you have a crisis communications plan in place. I have reached out to some crisis comms experts, however, because I know that's a big topic that you guys want to hear as well. But it's just kind of like, we're just going to watch this one play out. I don't necessarily enjoy hearing the different allegations that are being made on either side. And it's quite, I don't know, it's quite sad because he definitely was at the top of his game. I think he was just about to sign a really, really huge contract. And now, he announced yesterday that he was resigning from ESPN amidst the allegations. And who else knows what's going to come of this? So I think whether you're a celebrity or not, always reviewing your choices and not always being in the moment, making decisions and not thinking that things are going to catch up to you. We've seen it time and time again with celebrities. They make it big, or maybe they decide they want to get into politics, or they want to get in more high profile leadership roles. And then somebody goes and digs up tweets from 20 years ago and is like, okay, they were 17 at the time. Of course they were talking reckless, but things like that just tend to catch up with you and are highly damaging and can literally ruin your career and your professional life, as well as aspects of your personal life. So that's all I want to say about the Shannon Sharpe situation. If I do get some publicists together, we'll probably cover another topic. But anywho, so when we get back from the break, we will be discussing a topic that has pissed me off in our PR piss off of the week. And it has to do with the fact that whether you're a business brand or you have a personal brand, and let's say you're represented by a publicist, some folks have agents. So I have several clients where we're the PR agency, but they also have a literary agent. They'll also have a talent agent. They may have a talent manager. So everybody has different roles, but everybody is an extension of that one individual, that one brand, or that one business. And so how we're doing business on behalf of the individual or on behalf of their business is still connected to the business itself. So the way I conduct myself, the way my team conducts themselves as we're reaching out on that person's behalf or that person's business or organization's behalf matters, because maybe we're the touch point or the first touch point for folks before they get to the individual. And sometimes the individual is being judged by the actions of their agent, by the actions of the publicist. And if you're not choosing those right individuals as you grow, so let's say even here listening to this podcast, it's called PR yourself. So you're doing more DIY. Maybe you have someone internally, your assistant, or someone, a contractor that you've hired to reach out on your behalf. How they conduct themselves, their tone, their energy, the professionalism that they display when they're doing outreach, it all matters because it's reflected upon you at the end of the day. And if you don't choose right, you don't train them right, or you don't manage expectations, it really can jack up your brand. And in the end, like some examples I'm going to give in just a little bit, it can F up your bag royally. So keep it locked in. We're going to be right back after the break. And when you come back, we're going to get right into it. Hopefully it'll be some tips and tricks in there that you can use, but it's definitely my PR piss off of the week. These damn agents, managers, publicists that are just not acting right when you ain't looking.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
All right. Welcome back. So let's just get into it. Okay. So what sparked this conversation? Many things. I'll get into the story a little bit later, but oftentimes, I'm tasked with booking talent, or perhaps I'm given a budget and, I have clients or organizations that trust me, and it's like, hey, we want you to book so-and-so to come speak at the conference, or we want you to book so-and-so as live entertainment and things like that. And one of the things, and I've had it happen on my end too, so I'm not saying that my company is perfect, because it's not. One of the things that I often see is that sometimes, like if you're represented by an agent or a publicist, or you have someone who is doing, or their administrative assistant, and they are doing all of your intake, or perhaps they're negotiating the deal before it reaches you. Sometimes when dealing with these folks, it's just not a pleasant experience, or they're not timely in getting back to you, or perhaps they're judging ahead of time, and then they're potentially messing up your bag. And I will say, in probably the last couple of months alone, I've had some opportunities where, like for one speaker we were trying to book, I think the budget was around $20,000. And then there was another live entertainment artist that I was trying to book, and I think that budget was in the tens of thousands. And it just really was a bad taste in my mouth, because the people that I was dealing with, they weren't timely in my request, or I was having to just go direct to the talent themselves. And I'm like, look, I'm a publicist myself. I don't like going around your team. However, like, I'm really just trying to get this done. I'm really just trying to get this money in your hands. And the difficulty in doing so, it hasn't been a great experience. So I need everyone to think about, like, what is the experience that I'm setting up or providing when somebody is dealing with my brand. Okay. So this all just kind of goes back to internal communications or your external communication. So PR is more than just press and media outreach. I tell folks all the time, it's an overall, like, what does it feel like to experience your company or to experience your brand? When somebody reaches out to you and they want to set up a call, how long does that process take? Who are they dealing with? Are they dealing with someone that's bubbly and excited, or how does the brand feel? Does it feel inviting? Does it feel relatable? Like, these are all the things that you have to consider before people get to you. But even though they're not getting to you during that process until later on, that is still an attachment to you. That is still a part of your brand, and it still creates a public perception. So just to think about this a little bit further, like I said before, when people consider PR, they always think that it's only get me in the magazines, get me on Oprah. I want to be on Oprah's podcast, Tamron Hall, Sherry Shepherd Show. Everybody always relates radio, TV, magazines to PR, and it's way more than that. I actually pulled up the website for PRSA, which is the Public Relations Society of America. A lot of publicists, we're a part of this organization. It's like our association. And if you go on the website under the About section, it will tell you all of the disciplines and functions of PR. So there's 15 listed on the website, but there's way more outside of that, right? So there's corporate communications, crisis communications, executive communications, internal communications, and the list goes on and on and on and on. Reputation management, brand reputation, all of that is PR. And so when we're not considering what the customer's experience is in dealing with us, that affects brand reputation. Okay. So for example, let me see if I can give you guys a really, really good example of this. So years ago, I received a phone call from an organization that was frantically trying to reach a president of another organization. This particular organization was trying to cut a check to the other one in the form of a grant or something like that. And they were trying to really get in touch with the president, and they're listing out like, hey, Leah, like, here's the phone number of the person. Here's the email address. Like, what am I missing? I reached out to their assistant. I did all of this. And all I'm trying to do is give them money. And the person was extremely frustrated. And I was like, well, that's the contact information that I have for so-and-so. And that's just bizarre. Like, you're really trying to hand them a check. She's like, yeah, everything's approved. Like, the check literally can be made out to the organization. I'm just trying to notify the individual and let them know that here, I have this money for you and I can't get a hold of the person. They won't return my calls back, blah, blah, blah. The person went on further to let me know that other individuals that she had talked to said the same thing about the president of this organization, that they had received kind of this similar treatment and blah, blah, blah. And towards the end, it was like, I may have to reroute this money. And oh, by the way, I just, in the future, pretty much, I'm not going to give money to this organization ever again. And it just made me think of just how many times, because maybe our processes or systems aren't in order or we're not being timely. And I will even admit that happens on my end. We are not perfect. There's times where I'm slow to the punch. My assistant is slow to the punch. I just got on her last week about this. It didn't piss me all the way off because I'm like, you're supposed to be paying attention to this. I told you X amount of days ago to set this call up with this guy. That's what you're here for. It should never take longer than 24 hours to get this set up when I send this to you or when they reach out to you. So we had that conversation because everything matters. Every touch point matters. And all of that gets reflected back to you. It gets reflected as a representation of your organization. And we're just not, I just don't think we think a lot of these things through. So that's why I was wanting to have this conversation today, because it ended up happening again. I got a pool of funds to hire someone to come and keynote speak at an event. And I had reached out to the first choice on the list, and I had to go all the way around the mulberry bush to find how to reach and book the individual. And the individual did not respond to phone calls, text messages, anything. So I had a friend of a friend who I knew was very close to the individual. He ended up giving me all the information I needed. The person's management still didn't respond. So I had to go back to the person's old publicist. She was like, girl, I got you, because she and I know each other very well. She hopped in to make management respond back to me to give me an answer on this $20,000 in city. So it wouldn't even require any travel. And it's only an hour, $20,000 keynote inside the city that this person lives in. And the person finally responds back, because now I've brought in the reinforcements, and it's like, oh, I'll get you an answer within the week. And so I'm telling the people who have given me the money, give me a couple weeks. The person's probably really, really busy. And we put off securing for 3 to 4 weeks, just waiting. And finally, we moved down the list. And wouldn't you know it, the next person on the list who we really, 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 really wanted, I got a response back in literally less than 5 minutes to book that person. And I'm just like, how much money are we leaving on the table, or how much, it doesn't even have to be transactional, but how much in resources or connections or relationships are we burning bridges with because perhaps the person that's representing us is not putting their best foot forward on behalf of our brand, or we're not putting our best foot forward. And I think we just have to be careful, because I am going to assume that the first person we reached out to had no idea we've even tried to book her for this keynoting experience. I can almost guarantee it, that she is wholly unaware of how horrible it has been to try to get her secured. And honestly, if, because of how the experience was, and just us, it's like we were the redheaded stepchild, it was just awful. And it's just kind of like, I don't want to go through that again. If anybody asks, I'm gonna be like, look, if somebody else wants to do it, you go for it. But I'd rather us go with somebody. We can get an answer. We can get this secured. We can get marketing done. We can move forward. We know it's going to be great, instead of having to go through that horrible experience. And again, the sad part is that half the time when all of this is going on, the talent, or maybe you as a personal brand, you have no idea of how other people are acting on your behalf. And so that's just something that I wanted to just talk about today, is really honing in and really making sure that you have a grapple on your own internal communication. So when I say internal communications, is what's the relationship between you and your team? What processes and systems do you have in place? Because they are a reflection of you and how they're going out and acting on behalf of your brand, whether that's where they're securing stuff for you. How are they even acting in their own lives? Because people know that they work for you. All of that matters in the grand scheme of things for PR. And so I know I'm a former attorney. So one of the things that we always talked about in law school was how even in when we think about assault and battery, you could be sitting there just chilling, minding your own business. And let's say someone flicks your hair. Okay. And so I remember in criminal law class, or was it criminal law? Maybe it was criminal law. We had to determine, is that an assault? And one of the things, when we broke down the law was even if something is an extension of you and that person, messes with something that's an extension of you, it could be even your purse that's an extension of your body, that is still categorized as an assault, even though it wasn't a direct hit onto you, your physical skin, your physical person. If it's something that's attached to you or connected to you, that's still considered to be an assault. And especially if it's an offensive touching, but I'm not going to get into all of that. So this is the exact same situation, except we're not talking criminal stuff here, right? Let's just say these people are an extension of you. They are who the public is dealing with when they're not able to get a hold of you. These are the people you have designated to speak on your behalf, your attorneys, your agents, your public relations reps, your publicists. And if you're not having conversations with them, or if you're just wholly unaware of what they're doing, I promise you, these individuals could potentially mess up relationships for you and or mess up money getting into your pockets. And so how do we rectify this situation? I think, again, in just reviewing your processes and procedures, I think, and also keeping in close contact with your agents, your managers, your publicists. It could be maybe once a week you have a meeting and you're able to review what came in for me this week, or did someone, what bookings came through, or who reached out to you on my behalf. But you can't just hand everything away and walk away and be blind to how somebody is representing your brand in the streets. And I know that a lot of us get super duper busy, and that's the point of why we're hiring other people, is because we can't necessarily be in the nitty gritty, but there has to be checks and balances in place. So even for my assistant, the way I knew she didn't book that call with that guy is because I'm still CC'd on a lot of this stuff. And is that stressful, or does it cloud up my inbox? Absolutely. But there's also something in the back of my mind when I know when it doesn't happen, I can circle back to her and be like, where are we on this? Now, there are other instances as well where she and I will meet and I will say, what intake came in this week? But again, we're having those touch points so that I have an awareness, and it's not a blind awareness. I have a very visible awareness of what is being done on behalf of my brand. I'm not handing it off to somebody else and walking away because I have too much to do. Having too much to do and not necessarily having checks and balances in place can be very damaging to your brand overall. So just in wrapping this up, because this wasn't even supposed to be this long. 1, always remember that PR is more than press and media outreach and press and media relations. PR has everything to do with the relationship between you and the public. And like I said before, PRSA has 15 pillars on its website, but it even goes outside of those 15. And one of them being is those that you have representing you, whether they're internal with your company or they're hired as outside contractors, it does not matter, because everybody, the public's experience with them translates to an experience with you. And so another thing that we talked about in this episode as well is, in order to maintain a good relationship with the public, or to still have a touch point on how are these people going out and acting on my behalf, is evaluating what systems can you put into place to be able to still have an awareness of what's going on, even when you're not around or in the room, because we get it. You can't be everywhere to everything. Delegating is the key to growth and scaling for a lot of you guys. However, whether it's internal meetings, whether it's having a spreadsheet to look at leads, or whatever it is for you, you have to have some sort of touch point in order to be able to evaluate what's being done on your behalf when you're not looking. Okay. And third, well, I think that's it. I don't think there's a third. I think that's pretty much it. Just don't F up your bag. I cannot believe, if somebody wanted to give me $20K, or if I found out they were dealing with someone on my team and they got frustrated, the person wasn't getting back to them, and it was a $20K bag, I'd be pissed. I'd be so pissed. I don't know about you. But anyways, this is just something to marinate on. And like I said, we're not perfect. I know sometimes I get really busy here in Dallas and it takes me days to respond back to folks. I really try to go through my emails and respond back to people as fast as I can. And sometimes I'm just slow. And my assistant, she'll do the best that she can. And sometimes there's things she gets and she can't answer, And so we get it. Everybody deserves grace. But in some of these instances, grace can turn into, or the lack of grace, because people just don't have time to wait, can destroy opportunity. And so we need to learn on, and we need to just evaluate, how can we create the best experiences and the best touch points with our brands and the public as best as we can, and being as efficient as we can, but also knowing that this is also a part of PR and our PR strategy. So just marinate on that. Think about your current company. Think about your personal brand as it relates to everything that I just said. If you have feedback, you know what to do. Some of you guys have been really great about this. Just reach out to me. You can do it on LinkedIn, Leah Frazier, or you can go on Instagram and send me a message at the Leah Frazier, or on our podcast Instagram account at PR Yourself Podcast. Let me know what you think. If this episode has given you something to chew on just a little bit, go ahead and comment, share it out, leave us a review. We're definitely going to try to get back to posting. I've done some other interviews with some other great guests that we're planning on editing up and getting dropped on the podcast as soon as possible. And if you think of an episode that you need for you, a question that you have, go ahead and send it my way and we'll try to get something recorded so it could be as helpful to you as possible. But thank you for keeping it locked in, and we'll see you again in the future. Until next time.